Okay, let's begin this way. Jungle justice. What exactly is jungle justice? Well, that reminds me of a term or a concept in literature we call oxymoron. Oxymoron is a literature term that simply typifies a situation where you have, two conflicting things put together. For example, you have bittersweet. You can say that you had a bittersweet experience. You know that the words bitter and sweet ordinarily ought not to be together. So when you have such situations where two conflicting words are put together, in literature it is called oxymoron. In similar vein, justice and jungle are two opposing words that never ought to be together whatsoever. So why are they together? So let's go quickly into the background of the words justice, jungle justice, or the term jungle justice. Think about, of course, I take for granted that we know what justice means already. Let's see the word jungle. In jungle, let's look at what happens in jungle. That will help us, appreciate why we have the words jungle justice put together. All right. In a jungle, for example, we have a lion. When a male lion called a lion wants to mate with a female lion called a lioness, what it does is that if that female lion has offsprings, that is children from another male lion, the first thing that new male lion does is it kills all those children before mating with the female lion. Of course, animal scientists have said that that is done so that this new male lion is trying to protect his lineage, his blood lineage. Right? That's what happens. But for human beings, when a man is about to marry a divorced woman, like that lioness is divorced, for example, in the human kingdom, when a woman has divorced and had children with a former husband, the new husband does not kill them, but in the jungle, that happens. So think of the word. You see that with these examples I've given, it will be almost impossible to situate the words justice beside jungle, all right? Because they actually conflict. So they were put together purposefully to make people understand that people ought to have nothing to do with what is called jungle justice. So in common terms or parlance, jungle justice is when people take laws into their hands and take mob action, or they lynch human beings, they kill people because they think that person has done something wrong. That is called jungle justice. So really it is animals that ought to do that, not human beings, all right? Let's look quickly at what our laws say about insulting religion, generally speaking. All right, there's a dichotomy with respect to that, right? What the law says in the north part of Nigeria or northern part of Nigeria is different from what the law says in the southern part of Nigeria. In the northern part of Nigeria, most places in the north, the law that guides their criminal activities is called the penal code. But southern part of Nigeria, it is called the criminal code. These are two different laws, and in some respects, they have some differences. So, what are the ingredients? What does it take to insult religion or blaspheme in the north, for example? Or let's take south first. That is the southern part of Nigeria. Two things must coexist. Two things, we call them ingredients in law. Number one is that the person alleged must have, one, publicly insulted another's religion. It has to be public and it has to be an insult. So they must be established that that person has publicly insulted another's religion or a class of people. What that means is that if Toby and I are in a room and I said, Toby, your religion is nonsense, and we are together in a room, can I be charged for insulting his religion for that or for blasphemy? No. The word public has to be there. The prosecution has to prove that. And secondly, and these two things must coexist together. The second one is that it must be proved also that there was an intention to make the adherents of that religion get angry. All right, or to consider such act as an insult. So where the prosecution cannot establish that that person intended to insult another person by saying those things, even if it constitutes a blasphemy, then such will not be a crime under the law in southern parts of Nigeria, as I've stated, really. So the first, again, point is that one, it has to be proved or established that there was a public, insult by a person on a religion Two, that the person that insulted intended to do it, and the intention is to make the other person get angry by reason of doing that. So where these two things do not coexist, then the offense of insulting religion cannot be successfully established in the southern parts of Nigeria. You can see that in section 204 of the Criminal Code laws of various states. The punishment for that, if found guilty, is 2 years imprisonment, not death sentence. All right, let's look at the northern part of the country. By the way, northern part of the country on its own has two different sides to this issue. All right, one is the penal code, like I said. The other is the Sharia law. What does the penal code say about this issue? What does it say? There's a slight difference from what the criminal code says in the southern part of Nigeria. Number one, what it says or requires is that it must be proved that that person excited or caused hatred or contempt against a class of person. And class of person includes religions, so like a sect, religious sect or something. So contempt must first be proved against a class of person, that you were trying to incite hatred or contempt against another person or a sect like that. One. The second thing that must be proved, again together with the first one, only one will not succeed. All right. The second element is that such act must be proved to be capable of endangering people's peace or public peace. So where such, in the opinion of the court, does not amount to breaching public peace, then it would not, come under what we're discussing right now. All right, that crime can be grounded in section 417 of the Penal Code, applicable in most parts of the northern parts of Nigeria, like I've said. Right, so these two things again must cohabit rather. The punishment again is slightly different from what obtains in the Criminal Code. What are the punishments? It's in three ways. One, there is either, that's for Penal Code, one, there's either 3 years imprisonment. Remember, for Penal Code is 2 years. So for Penal Code is 3 years, or the person is asked to pay a fine, or the person is asked to go to prison for 3 years at the same time pay fine. So those are the three branches of possibilities of punishment when somebody is found guilty under section 417 of the Penal Code, which actually talks about insulting class of persons, which includes, of course, religion. But for Sharia law, the law is that where a person blasphemes or insults religion, the punishment shall be death sentence. I must quickly add that in that case, a court of competent jurisdiction must still first look into the matter to consider whether or not the person is guilty of the crime that has been alleged or accused that the person has committed. Now, something also important is this. You may ask the question, if I am a non-Muslim, for example, and I stay in a state that has Sharia law in effect, in operation, would I be bound by that law? The answer is no. All right. So if you are a non-Muslim and, for example, you stay in a state like Kano, where they have Sharia law and Penal Code together, what happens is that the legal implication is that the Penal Code is what will guide your affairs, not the Sharia Code. So the Sharia Code or law will guide you only if you have subscribed. All right. So that Islamic system. So these are the two differences. So what that means is that only, confirmed Muslims, that their lives will be regulated or guided or affected by this Sharia law. So non-Muslims clearly have been exempted. So to my final question or penultimate question, does our ground norm, that's Constitution, say anything about this issue? Yes. Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria states that, I paraphrase, no government in Nigeria shall adopt any religion as state religion. I repeat, no government in Nigeria shall adopt any religion as state religion. Check section 10 of the 1999 Constitution. Let's look at, the last question then. Would we say it is right then for a state government, for example, to sponsor people, residents, citizens on, religious pilgrimages? Well, my answer would be an opinion, right? And my opinion is it would be wrong to use people's taxes to sponsor some religious sects, for religious pilgrimages. It would be wrong. Now, and these are my reasons for, taking that position. Number one, Assuming that I am an atheist. Who is an atheist? That's someone that does not believe in any God whatsoever. And I pay taxes. So you take, since the government does not separate taxes of Christians from Muslims, from Buddha people, from those the traditionalists, from atheists, they are pooled together. So they take from the pool of funds that people pay and sponsor only two religions most times. Of course, that appears very, very unfair to others, except the government wants to start sponsoring everybody to Shango Festival, whatever, this and that festival, and take people to India to do whatever thing to China and observe their belief system. But to take only two and have a ministry to that effect, of course, in my view, is very, very wrong and unacceptable. I think that religion ought to be something that is very personal. The state ought not to deploy funds to sponsor that. And in the same vein, the state ought not to be involved in building mosques, churches, or what have you. No, it is a personal thing. And of course, the basis of my submission, of my opinion, is Section 10, like I said, of the 1999 Constitution.